Hey, friends, good morning. How are you all today? I know we're going live a little bit early today. That's because I have a special guest with me. And so, again, as always, if you are here with us, please let us know. Put your questions here in the chat. I always love to have an interactive show. And as always, thank you for joining us. This is Grace Redman. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my communities and circles who have overcome challenges and created amazing. Today, I have a very special guest with me because this guest has helped me overcome many challenges over the last 9 years, and she is one of my incredible mentors. So today, our guest is Sunny Dawn Johnston. Sunny stands out as a renowned psychic medium, visionary, and spiritual business coach. She's a regular contributor to Women's World magazine and has penned 22 books, among them Invoking the Archangels and The Love Never Ends, notable bestsellers, forming the foundation for her signature talks on intuition, mediumship, and the angelic realm. Sunny's offerings span courses, one-on-one sessions, masterminds, and live events. Whether it's face-to-face or virtually, her mentorship has empowered countless individuals to align with their inner selves and embrace a higher vibrational, multi-dimensional existence. She's the brain behind Elevate Your Life membership platform, a space dedicated to crafting a life filled with abundance, self-appreciation, and happiness. As a leader of Elevate Your Life, Sunny emphasizes accountability, support, and guidance, ensuring sustainable and purposeful transformation. Everyone is invited to tap into 2 decades of Sunny's wisdom and teachings within the Elevate community. Sunny also dedicates her time to volunteering as a psychic detective for Find Me, a global nonprofit. This organization brings together psychic, investigative, and canine search and rescue volunteers, all working in tandem to aid law enforcement and assist families of the missing and victims. And she's really so much more. Honestly, that bio really doesn't do Sunny Dawn Johnston justice. So really help me welcome Sunny Dawn to the show today.
Hey guys, hey sister.
Hi, Sunny. This is fun.
I know. I'm like, all right, come on already. Let's get over that whole. Oh, I don't like bios.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. You know, I didn't really even prepare for today. Usually I prepare and I have my questions, but I'm like, oh, it's Sunny. I just get to show up with Sunny today.
I love it. I didn't prepare either. I'm here. I figure that's all we need, right? This is real talk. This isn't prep talk.
Exactly. So I just want to say hi to Brandy and Helen. Thank you for joining us, and we'll let it go wherever it goes today. Right, Sunny?
Awesome. I'm good with that, girl.
So
So this is the 100th episode, though.
Yes,
so like,
I was so excited to have you join me. I didn't even celebrate. Like, yes, this is our 100th episode.
Hello! Woo!
For you, like, there wouldn't be a 100th episode. There wouldn't be a podcast because, you know, I was terrified. You're like, okay, your homework assignment is you have to do a Facebook Live. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't do that.
I do remember that, actually.
No way, not doing it. Oh my gosh. It took me 3 years to get comfortable to do that homework assignment with you.
Yeah, you really struggled with being live. And I think the first one, didn't you do the first one in your car or something? If I remember, that was the very first one. Like, okay, I'm just going to do it now. And now look at you. I love it.
Thank you. And so, can I tell the story about like how I met you?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course you can.
But this is how the universe works, right? So I had just read, you know, Anita Moorjani's Dying to Be Me book. And I thought, wow, this is so powerful. So my cousin calls me. She's like, do you want to go with me to Arizona? There's this author I love and I want to go see her. And I'm like, sure, I'll go. So I go with her. And then there's one night where they say, we're going to talk about woo-woo and angels. And I'm like, okay. She couldn't come. She needed to do work in the hotel room. I'm like, well, I'm going. Like, I want to go see what this woo-woo and this, you know, angel stuff is. And of course, what do? I go sit all the way in the back. I hide. Like, I know how to hide in the back really well. And there's a panel of people, and I don't even remember who was on that panel. All I remember is this lady, they give her the microphone and she starts talking. And then I like, who is this person? Well, Sunny Dawn Johnston, and you had me at hello, really. From that moment you shared about your story with the angels. And at that time, stuff like that for me was like over my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
angels, really? So can you share a little bit with us your angel,
About the
your
angels?
experience?
Sure. Yeah. Well, as far as how it started, that story that Grace is talking about, it was probably the story of how I started getting into angels in the first place and why that was the purpose of me being at that event was to speak on angels. And for me, that experience started at the age of 13. So for some people, they're like, okay, like you said, that's over my head. But for me, it'd been really this lifelong journey, at this point now, 40 years into this journey. And so what happened was I woke up one night, the middle of the night, just like any other night that you would wake up at 13 years old. And I rolled over. And when I went to roll over, I looked at the clock and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And as I went to roll over, there was this bright light above me, which my light wasn't on. And so I kind of opened my eyes a little bit and realized, oh, that's not a light. And I saw above me this beautiful, colorful winged being above my bed. And that energy, it wasn't as much what I saw. Like what I saw was like, wow. But what I felt was like this sense of calm and gentleness and love and like all of this energy that I wasn't really used to experiencing, and I'd never certainly experienced it in that way. And so I felt so calm and so at peace that I literally just rolled over and went back to sleep. And I didn't even think about it. It was just like almost like that was a normal thing, except for it wasn't. And I woke up the next morning and my head kicked in and I was like, oh shit, what was that? And I ran downstairs. I told my mom, I said, oh my God, mom, this is what happened. And my mom said, well, Sunny, that was your guardian angel. And I said, I don't have one of those. And she's like, well, of course you do. Why wouldn't you have a guardian angel? Everybody has one. And I said, I don't have one. Because my mind at 13, my mind was, if I had a guardian angel, then nothing bad would ever happen because their job is to protect me from it. So I either don't have a guardian angel or I have a crappy one. Like that was the way I felt. I don't have one or I got like the bad end of the deal on this. And she said, well, Sunny, everybody has a guardian angel. And I just want to share with you what happened last night. So then she went on to tell me that at 11 o'clock that night, she'd come into my room and she had prayed over me. And she'd never done this before, but she had prayed over me, specifically asking God and the angels to keep me safe.
Mm.
And so what I realized at that time was I still didn't believe I had a guardian angel. I wasn't sure that they were angels. But what I knew for sure was that at that moment, at that time, I had awakened to the manifestation of my mother's prayer.
Mm.
And you know what that did for me, Grace, was it made me curious.
Mm.
Curiosity is what I've been following for 40 years, girl.
I get it. I'm right there with you and curious and just always open. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to things I may have never been open to before after having the experiences I've had.
Yes, exactly. That wouldn't have even made sense,
Right.
prior to. But once you've had some of these sacred experiences, these unusual, out of the norm experiences, it changes normal. you
It
know,
really
like here we are.
it really does. And I was walking with someone the other day and they reminded me that, they said your mom had an experience. She saw the Virgin Mary.
Mm,
And I do remember her talking about that. So like her and her cousins, a couple of her cousins had that experience. And then I write about this in the book. I also had the experience when I was 19 years old. And I know that I've talked to you about this, where I was going through a really hard time. I was alone and isolated. There was no one I could talk to. And then I had that same experience. I wish I could have that experience again. Like it's never come to me again in that way. And then I forgot about it, until we connected, and then I started getting curious again about spirituality.
mhm.
But for someone who's watching that this may be over their head, you know, what does it what do the angels mean? Like, what does it look like? Like, what does it mean? What does it look like? Is it do you see something? Do you feel something?
Yes, yes, and yes. So do you see something? Sometimes. Do you feel something? Sometimes. So it really depends on each individual person, we have different ways of processing information, just kind of like our brains work and taking information in, right? Some people are more visual, some people are more kinesthetic, some people are more auditory. So it actually works the same way intuitively, where some of us feel the presence of the angels. A lot of times in my classes or when I'm doing a speaking event, I'll ask people, how many of you feel your angels? And we'll get some of the people that will raise their hands, like they literally feel that energy, that presence around them, within them. And then I'll ask people, how many of you see them, like actually have had a vision like I did? And, there's a few hands for that. And then how many of you have heard a message, like heard a voice that you relate to the angelic realm? And a few hands will raise. And then how many of you just know? Do you just know that they're with you? And, actually quite a few hands raised. And then this is my final question. How many of you just hope? You just hope that your angels are with you, and everybody raises their hand, right? So sometimes we see them and sometimes we feel them. And the way that we start to learn the word I would use is discernment, how to discern the difference between, maybe sometimes the question is what I want to feel versus what I'm actually feeling. Because so many people are like, yeah, I want it, but I don't know if it's actually real. Right. So that discernment takes practice. It takes development. It takes consistent presence in the energy and awareness when it's happening. And so this is part of the kind of process of developing our intuition, opening up to our ability to communicate with the spirit world, because the reality of it is the spirit world isn't somewhere else. It's right here. It's with us. And we all have that ability. It doesn't really matter to me what foundational belief you have. The reality of it is, if any of you have ever been with somebody that has just passed on, that no longer is alive, there's nothing left in a body. The body is nothing without the spirit within it. So the spirit leaves, the body dies. The spirit leaves to be in this realm with all of us. And so the beauty of it is that our angels, our guides, our deceased loved ones, they show up for us in ways that we can understand if we're willing to see the signs.
I love that. And it's energy.
It's energy.
And like you said, tapping into your intuition. And I'm sure many people have had experiences where you think of someone and they call. I feel like for me, that's energy, that's spirit. That's right. I remember when my dad transitioned and he was still, he was in the home, he was at home and he took his last breath. And of course they're still there till whoever comes and takes him out of the house. So it was nighttime. So I go outside and that it was a very still night. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. It was a very still night. There was no wind or anything. Next thing I know, it's just like this breeze of wind comes and blows. And I was like, and then I just felt, I'm like, wow, that was my dad. And so again.
And you knew that, right? Like you had a knowing that was my dad.
And that was before I even was connected to you. And, before I got curious into spirituality, you just know, like intuitively, I just knew that was my dad.
Yeah.
And so when we think about these things, we think, okay, my God, that's so weird. However, if you really think about it, it's not that weird because you get those gut feelings.
Right.
You see those numbers.
Yeah. Angel numbers, very popular and something that a lot of people are aware of, but it's difficult because if you don't know that it's a sign, you don't know, right? So you're like, well, and what we do is we say what you just said, that's weird. That's weird. And so if you keep saying that's weird a lot, then there's a reason why weird is happening. Okay.
So I love how you say that because I have a friend and she's like, Grace, it's so weird. I keep seeing the number 34. And I'm like, and then I explained to her, that's not weird. 34 happens to be like a number of her birth month or something. So then when I communicated that to her, she was like, oh, wow. So now every time I see her, like I was with her over the weekend, she's like, look at 34 is on my plane ticket. I'm like, yes, girl. Yes, that means your angels are with you. So
exactly. Those are fun signs because the idea is it's supposed to make us be more present and more aware in our lives in this physical realm, just to be more present. It's not always that there's this huge message, here's the combination to the safe, or here's the lottery numbers. It's more
that'll be great.
Right. It's just more of, hey, I'm here. I'm with you. I just want you to know I didn't miss the wedding. I was there. That's why when you drove up, the car odometer said 4444. Like so you knew I was here. Like that. It's as simple as that. And it makes life fun. And life
Yes.
is supposed to be fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And you know me, I'm always looking for some fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it is supposed to be fun. And we take things so seriously. We
Yes.
get it. Like the world is in chaos. And well, the world is usually in chaos, right? It's not just right now. And so how do we move through life when everything outside of us is chaotic? Like, how can we stay present
Mm-hmm.
and
Really good
have that
question.
fun,
Mm-hmm.
while like recognizing, okay, this is happening, like we don't want to put rose colored glasses on. Like, how can we do this and that?
Right. Well, that's that you got it. It's this and that. So most people, and probably a lot of you that are watching, if you really got honest with yourself, would say that you live in a this or that world. It's this or it's that. It's black or it's white. It's red or it's yellow. It's this or it's that. Whatever it is. And the reality of it is, we don't live in a this or that world. We live in a this and that world. Both um, both exist at the same time. And really, what the way that I have found, and this isn't the right way, and it certainly isn't the only way, but one of the ways is to start to recognize that we get to choose what we put our attention on.
Mm-hmm.
We get to decide what we're focusing on. So, of course, there's chaos in the world. And I don't know that there's ever been a generation that's ever lived on this planet that has not felt like there was chaos throughout their at different levels in their journey. The challenge and the gift is that at this time in our world, we have much more connection to everyone else in the world. So not only do we hear, like back in the day, if we went back 40 years, you would read in the newspaper or maybe watch on the TV news that was on twice at night, twice, period, that this was happening in somewhere else. Well, now you see it a zillion times in front of you over a short period of time. So we have that awareness. So we either stay locked into the external, the
Mm-hmm.
chaos, or we get locked into the connection with spirit, with source, with God, with the universe, with whatever that connection is for you. And when we get locked in there,
Mm-hmm.
then we find our safety within us,
Yes.
instead of outside of us. And that's
Yes.
hard for people.
Mhm.
And it's hard, and not or, it's hard and it's true.
I do know that to be true based on my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I got I went down the rabbit hole of the chaos,
Mm-hmm.
and it just felt terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I got myself out was going back to, and I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to church because I love the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that this year, earlier in January, and my life has completely transformed. Not that I'm not aware of the chaos, but
Sure.
because I've learned to kind of reconnect with myself and what I will call God.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps me present,
Yeah.
and it keeps me feeling safe,
Mm-hmm.
because my nervous system was so activated, I
Right.
never felt safe. And then you feel it in your body, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're in a constant state of fight or flight, and then that creates illness, with which you talk about, a lot. Like, it creates
Right.
a dis-ease in the body. So
Yes.
that's why it's so important to have that. Well, we talk about fun,
Mm-hmm.
because we'll get sick.
Right. Well, and it's you said so much there. It's our job to be responsible for our energy, and our energy contributes to the global energy.
Yes.
All of us, we all have an effect, right? Like they talk about the butterfly effect. A
Oh, yeah.
butterfly flapping its wings here has an effect across the globe. So we all have that effect. So it's our job to maintain our energy and to be in the highest frequency that we can be. And that does not mean to ignore and deny that there are difficult, painful realizations and experiences that are happening around the world at any given time. But it means in my center of the world, I'm going to do and take the actions that I can take to be the greatest impact on the planet that I choose to be. And And then also, when you were talking about nervous system, let's go back to caveman days for a minute, when we didn't have all of this stuff. Our nervous systems were not designed to carry the load that they carry. They were not designed to do that. When we were created, we didn't have any of this. Now we've adapted, and we will continue to adapt, and we burn ourselves out with the unlimited access to activity in every direction. Like I was somewhere. Oh, I was bowling. I went bowling.
I love that.
You know that I suck bad. I hadn't been bowling for like 18 years maybe, and I think I got like, I can't remember. I might be embarrassed to say, I think it was under 80. I know that. It was really bad. But I went bowling. So brand new bowling alley. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's like all digital. Like, it had been a while, so I used to still write it out, right? So it's all digital, and then they had music that was going, and so, okay, that's cool. I like music. And then they had the screens that the bowling scores were on, right? And each time you got a score or you didn't get a score, it told you, hey, try harder, or, oh, good job, right? So that was cool. But at the bottom of it, they had this ticker of all the things that were going on in the world, like boom, 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 boom. And then not only that, then not the TVs above where the scores were, but on the TVs up by the lanes, there was news. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm here to bowl. Like, totally. I don't want to know about all this stuff. I'm here to actually raise my vibration. But then, so there's so many things coming at us, and our nervous system was not designed to manage that. It wasn't. So I don't care who you are. If you're not micromanaging your energy and all the things around you, your nervous system is suffering from it.
I can, yes, I can. That's why I need to get out into nature,
yes.
Twice a day, walk, turn off. I put the phone on do not disturb every single day. I would never have done that before.
Yeah.
And there's so many distractions from all angles. Like, it doesn't end.
Yes.
And then you wonder, like, I'm like, why does my body hurt? Well, I'm not supposed to be taking in. Our body can only take in between 5 and 9 bits of information at one time.
Mm-hmm.
That's scientific.
I didn't know that number, so that makes even more sense.
No, we are only able to take in between 5 and 9 bits of information at a process, 5 to 9 bits of information. So all of this information is coming to us. Then you get, at least for me, I'm talking about my experience. I get overloaded, and then my brain goes like this, and then I can't focus.
Yeah.
So I've had to be really mindful of the distractions. It's too much, because then you get nothing done.
Right. Right. And we're not meant to live lives attached to this. What we're meant to live our lives is attached to this, this, and this. So nature, for sure, nature is great. And walking is great. Like, that calms your nervous system. Walking is one of the, and you and I talked about this. Walking is one of the best things you can do to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is going to calm that nervous system down. And it's equally as good for your brain as it is for your body. Even more so for your mental state. So those types of things, when we look at the kind of the bigger picture of things, and we're saying, okay, we want to bring more joy in, and then people feel like, oh, but that's selfish because there are people suffering in the world. That's the actual reason to do it, is to bring that frequency up.
Yeah. And that's right. As being Palestinian American, like, we've really struggled, the last year, witnessing the genocide, and it's 11/11. Oh, there you go.
And there's those angel numbers,
right? And so it's a terrible it's horrible, like, to witness, because then you feel it in your in your body, and it's generational. And so I've said, like, let's step up, like, be the best at whatever you're doing, be the best at it, and step into your optimal self, connect to your higher power, whatever of your understanding, because as you grow as a person, then you can get a seat at those tables. Then you could have a voice. Then you elevate the collective. And that's what we talk about, like, being that mustard seed. It ripples out to create a better world, and for peace for everyone. This is not, this is about peace.
And don't let things, people, situations steal your peace. You actually have a right to make the decision around what you want to allow in your own space. And I'm big on maintaining your own energy, holding your own frequency, uh,
Absolutely.
being mindful of your vibration, and not because other people's don't affect us, but because we get to choose how we let it affect us based on the attention we give it and based on the interaction we have with it and our ability to monitor our own frequency.
Yes, because if I don't monitor my frequency and manage, my energy, how am I going to be supportive to my community?
Right.
I'm going to be useless.
Right.
And
Well,
so
what you
that's
do is you become part of the problem, not
mhm,
part of the solution, because if we think about it, if somebody has, let's say that you and I are hanging out and you're telling me something that's really sad and really difficult and you're really upset and you share it with me and I'm not managing my energy well, then after that conversation, I don't feel good now. And then
right.
I go to my friend and I tell my friend, now my friend, and so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger instead of I honor you. I recognize that you are in a difficult place. I emphasize with what you're feeling, and I manage my own energy so that I don't keep the extension going.
Right. Well, you've taught me so much. One of being observer as opposed to an absorber. Because when
Yes.
I absorb the energy, then again, like I feel it in my body, I'm in fight or flight, then I'm not able to be, supportive and of service. So
Yes.
I really work on that, although, I've struggled with that the last year. And, I've learned that our challenges are, meant to expand us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's
Well,
how I
and,
look.
and that, I mean, I couldn't teach it if I hadn't had the experience, right? Observe, don't absorb. That was a huge, and it still continues to be one of my life lessons, is to manage my own energy, not get involved in other people's energy. Their energy is none of my business.
That's
All
right.
of those things, right? So that's a huge, and for people that are maybe newer and you're like, okay, wait, what are we talking about here? Like for some people that aren't as aware of energy, this can be a new concept. And certainly at one time in my life, it was new to me. And at one time in Grace's life, it was new to her. But what we're talking about, if we wanted to simplify it just all the way down, is protect your peace.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't take on the energy of other people or other situations or circumstance. Don't worry. Like, worrying is praying for what you don't want to have happen.
Yes.
Happen.
Yes. 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 And I surrender. Like I was worrying about something today and I'm like, why are you worrying? You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to worry, let it go.
Yeah.
And then I started imagining something fun, and it
Yes.
wasn't that I was, I don't have the rose colored glasses on. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, even Mike said, like, why are you worrying about something that hasn't happened?
Right. Well,
With,
that reminds me, Grace. So this is a conversation of I just had this, I think yesterday, with a client, and what I said to them was, it really caught their attention. Was I said, fear and faith
yeah.
are both unseen.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Which one do you want to put your attention on to see? So if you put your attention on fear, you will see it. If you put your attention on faith, you will see that. So just make a choice. They're both in the unknown.
Oh, I love that. I choose faith every time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the term Raz. So Raz is whatever we put our focus on, our mind is going to bring us evidence to prove us true.
Right.
So if I'm focusing on, fear in this situation, I'm going to get all types of evidence to confirm that I'm right. However, if I focus on the faith in the situation, I'm going to get all types of examples to prove that I'm right in regards to faith. So I will choose faith every single time
Mm-hmm.
because I have seen miracles. I've experienced miracles. Now, life's not perfect. I always am experiencing some type of challenge,
Sure.
but in letting it go, it just works out. It works out. It always does.
Mm-hmm.
And like my life hasn't been easy. And I'm not sitting here saying this from I've had so much adversity, just like you have. But what do I want to choose?
Right.
I can still be afraid and have courage to move into the faith.
Yeah. That's actually what courage is. Courage and bravery is actually stepping into the thing when you're afraid.
Yeah. And
That's what it
it's
comes
natural. We're
from.
human. I want to see
Mhm.
who's here with us. Rick Ateo is here and Helen. Hello. Thank you for joining us today.
Great to
Yeah.
see you guys.
Yeah. Observe, not absorb for sure is a hard lesson. Rick says most of the time we have not real direct control over experiences in the world, but for me, I can be a force behind the scene. Just surround all people with loving, healing, positive energy. Yes. And that
Mhm.
was one of the intentions before we got on. I told Sunny, let's go viral with love.
Yep.
Let's just get the love, out there, and because love is always the answer.
Mhm.
I really is.
It is. It is.
So
And it's not ever going to be any different. The way that it manifests might show up um, in different ways. So love looks differently in different circumstances and situations, but the energy of love is always going to be the highest frequency next to joy.
I was going to say,
Joy is actually the highest expression of love there is. Joy is the highest expression. So if we can choose joy, and some people are like, yeah, but that's selfish when all this is. No, joy is the highest expression of love there is. So if you're wanting to go high with love, get joyful. Find things that bring you joy. Find things that spread joy.
I'm going to get emotional because I've been doing the work for so long. I mean, I started when I was 15 reading, Tony Robbins, and then 10 years ago, 9 years ago, connected with you, and then started doing it a whole different way. And today, when I look at my days, I mean, I would say 95+% of the things I do during my day bring me joy. Now, compare that to 10 years ago, where it was like 5% of what I was doing bring me joy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so important for us to show up and spread this message.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I think that a lot of people don't realize the power that they have in choice. Like you do get to choose these things in your life, and some people say, well, yeah, but I have to go to work. Yes, but you actually can choose the kind of jobs you do, and you can choose the kind of people that you work around, and you can choose the environments. And they'll be like, yeah, but it's a different, I work in sales, let's say. Well, there are some companies that have a really great energy that are in sales. It doesn't have to be, oh, it's so hard or it's so heavy. And this isn't to say that anybody's making a bad decision, but one of the things that I have less and less tolerance for is excuses. And the reason is because as you get older, there's less time to have excuses. Like, listen, if you want to have a joyful life, like it's freaking time to do it now, because you might not have tomorrow. It's
That's
not
true.
guaranteed.
It's not.
It's
It's
not.
not. And something I love that I learned from you, because I've been in situations that have just not been joyful at
Mm-hmm.
all. And I know like it was a choice to be in it, and or to be there. And so I said, okay, like number one, what's my part? I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So I took accountability for that. And how can I make this work for me in the moment until I'm able to move to another place?
For
So
sure.
if the job I'm doing isn't something I'm enjoying, okay, well, it doesn't make my whole day bad. It's
Right.
like, okay, this is not that fun, but what's the joy, or what's the gratitude I can find in it? And then that started making things a little bit easier.
Yeah, and
You
what's the value? What's the value that I'm taking from this one thing? Because if something is present in your life, there's purpose. And
know,
I'll ask people, okay, well, what's the purpose of this in your life? And they'll say, there isn't. Nope, that's not true. There's a purpose. Now, the purpose might be that's pissing you off so much that it's time to make a change. That could
right.
literally be the purpose. But there is purpose in everything. So if something's difficult and you have to ease through it, like when I years ago, like a lifetime ago, when I first had my son, I was a single teenage mom. I was on welfare and food stamps. I was living with his father, birth father, which was an alcoholic. And I knew that was not the space for me. I knew I should not be in that relationship. I knew it wasn't healthy. I knew it wasn't a place that I wanted to raise my son. And I didn't have the self-love to get out yet. But I knew one day I would. So I was on food stamps and welfare and barely surviving. I put $5 a week away for 2 years to have enough money to move out of the shack that we were living in and into a rented room from somebody. Like that was that was what I could do at that time. I didn't have it, like you're saying, I didn't have it to be able to go, okay, I'm just going to change this tomorrow. I couldn't, but I could put $5. And that was my step every single time. Like, this money is going to, one day, I'm going to be able to do this.
I love how you just shared that, because I was talking about that this morning. And I said, there are some things that we want to, achieve in life that we have to recognize it's not going to happen tomorrow. However, if we show up each day and just take this tiny step within whatever, a month, 6 months, 24 months, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's a fact.
Right. Right. And you just have to stay committed to that. And I think some of us, I mean, I'm an Aries, so I like things done yesterday. And I think there's a lot of people that are like that, right? Like, if it didn't happen yesterday, it's late. And so we can get very impatient, especially with ourselves, which then just keeps the cycle of shaming and blaming and guilt and all those things. It keeps that energy up, which doesn't serve any of us.
That's right. That's right. And again, we have to take accountability for our lives and where we are. And I know for myself, if there is something that's not working out, and I'm like, okay, Grace, it's not working out. Like, what's your part? And typically it's because I need to set a boundary. I need to step back. I need to do something different. I was conditioned in victim mentality, like, oh, poor me. And then when I learned, I'm like, oh, wow, it's not poor me. Like, it's not outside of me. It's me. It completely changed the way that I move in the world and how I feel.
I love talking about personal responsibility or accountability. And it's super uncomfortable for most people because they and I was there, so I know what that's like. Get into I guess those excuses again, right? Well, but you don't understand, da 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 da. And here I am to say, guess what? I don't understand everybody's life. I haven't walked in your shoes. But what I know for sure, having worked with thousands of people over 25 years, is that people are more similar than they are different. Sure. And there are people that have very common challenges as others do. And the moment that you think you are the only one that's ever felt whatever it is, the moment you think that, you are sacrificing yourself, because the reality of it is, on a planet of almost 8 billion people, it is not possible for you to be the only one that's ever felt, ever experienced, ever had blah, blah, blah happen. And it doesn't mean that I can't have empathy and compassion for you, but it means, okay, let's not use that as for an excuse. Let's find a way to feel the feelings and move into it and say, okay, I get to take personal responsibility. What's happened to me may not be my fault. Okay. What's happened to you may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal from it and to move forward.
Yes, I like that it's not my fault, and it's my responsibility to do something different, to move out. Like you were in a situation, you knew it wasn't right. However, you had to save $5 a week for a period of 2 years. And so I think that's what I wanted to, and that's what I was talking about this morning. Like, I might not be able to get to where I want to go tomorrow. However, if I keep taking these steps and making these choices, I will, get there.
Right. It's one step at a time.
Yeah, it's one step. So we talk about the work. This kind of 2 questions, and I want to be respectful of your time. What does the work mean? Like, everyone says, do the work. What does the work mean?
Man, it depends on where you are and where I'm meeting you, I guess, because, the work for one person is going to look really different than another person. For somebody that has awareness, that work is going to look different than somebody that's brand new, that's never done anything. But I think if we really, if we're going to break it down to try to make it the simplest of terms, I think the real work is getting honest with ourselves. Mm-hmm. That's the real work, is getting honest with ourselves, not bullshitting ourselves anymore, not pretending that we are doing the things that we say we're doing. It's like, the example I always think of is I have many clients that I've done this with, and I've said, how much time do you spend on your phone? And they're like, not very much, maybe like a half hour, maybe an hour on social media max. Go grab your phone. And they grab their phone and they look at it. Oh, it's actually 7 hours. Oh. Okay. That's very different, right? Totally. So we have this idea inside of us of how we are or aren't doing particular things. And a lot of times it's just because we're not honest with ourselves, because we're not willing to look at our part. It comes back to that accountability, our part in in life. Like if anything is not working, the first place I go is me. That's
Ditto.
the easiest.
Me too. Because I can only control myself. I take inventory of
Exactly.
myself. I cannot
Exactly.
control anyone else.
You got it. It's the easiest place to look, because the reality of it is, I am not going to change whatever system it is that I think is against me. I'm not going to change that. I don't have that power. I don't actually have the power to change my husband. I don't
Girl,
have the power to change my kids. Like, so I
girl,
certainly don't have the power to change somebody else.
hell no.
Right. So instead of trying to go, oh, them, I go, okay, this isn't working. What is it that I can do? How can I shift? That's the work. The work is shifting it from external them to internal me. And when I make that shift, I start to take that responsibility and that accountability. And what that really does, even though it might be uncomfortable, is it pulls the power back to the place it belongs, which is me, my power. And you, Grace, you have your power. But if you were going to try to use your power to change me, that's going to be difficult,
Oh,
right?
girl.
And we've all tried it. We've all tried to change people.
So my mom, that she passed away when she was very young, 50 years old. I don't remember how old I was, 30 something. And she told me, like, you have to take care of everyone and make sure they do this and make sure they do that and make sure. And, in my mind, I'm like, okay. And then I was like, wait a second. I can't tell. They're grown adults. Like, how do you want me to control? I can't. So, like, it took me a long time to step back and say, like, I can't control anyone. But as the oldest, they give you that responsibility. Like, it's your responsibility to make sure this happens. I'm like, well, I learned the hard way. Like, I can't control anyone.
Right. But you tried. Right.
Yeah, but you think you're coming from a place of love and yeah, like you think it's like it's a loving thing to do, but
right.
it's a sabotaging thing to do, honestly.
Right. Well, and it's a lack of self-love. Right? It's a codependent thing to do. It's an unhealthy thing to do. It's an over-loving thing to do. And it's not loving yourself. And a lot of people would argue this, and I get it. People say, well, you should love others first. And okay, but if I don't, as simple as the little airplane, grab your oxygen mask first. Like, if I don't fill my cup up, then guess what I'm going to expect you to do? I'm going to expect you to do it for me. And then if you don't do it the right way, then I'm going to tell you how you should have done it. And that never works, because we've all tried it. We've all been in relationships, had friendships, been married, been divorced from all those people. We've done it. It doesn't work. So instead we go, okay, where is the work? To your original question, where is the work? The work's with me. Yeah. And it's always going to be with me.
And part of the work, again, where I struggled was holding boundaries, speaking up, asking for what I want and what I need. And so again, it's not the other person's fault. It comes back to my responsibility, because I'm not holding them accountable. I'm not setting the boundaries. Right. I'm not speaking up. So
and that can be really in really simple ways. Like, I had a story I've shared before where when I was first starting to start my business, and I was in training. I was taking a class for a couple of years. It was a certification class. And so I was gone every week, and I had little kids, like 1.5 and 9, 10 at the time. And so I was gone every week. And so before, as a mom, you probably know, you get everything ready, you make all the dinner, you do all the stuff, you get them all ready and in their pajamas, and then you go to class. And then I'd come home, and all my husband had to do was put them to bed. That was all he had to do, right? I did that for about 4 or 5 months. And one of the days I just had a day. And so he came home, and I hadn't gotten the kids' food ready yet. They weren't bathed and all the stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, would you just make dinner? Because I don't have the time. He's like, yeah, I'll make dinner. And I'm like, well, why don't you ever do it? Why don't you just ever help me? He goes, you never asked. I know. And I was so mad. I'm like, what do you mean?
I love that story, because when I was going to therapy all those years ago, and I'd be like, well, they should do this and they should do that. And she's like, have you asked? And I'm like, no. She's like, well, do you expect people to read your mind? I'm like, well, they should just know. No, you have to ask. Ask and you shall receive.
Exactly. So that's the reminder, and that can happen in spousal relationships. It can happen in team relationships, in work environments, in friendships. Like, a lot of times we just don't take that initiative, because exactly, like, well, if they loved me, they would know. Well,
Right.
how could they know? If you loved you, then you should express it.
Right. Which is not easy to do. Oh, I struggled with expression. Wow.
It's not easy to do. And
Took out my
just
thyroid.
exactly. Exactly. And just because it's not easy doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. We
Right.
think that somehow we think we signed up for easy. We did not sign up for easy. Nobody
No.
signed up for easy. If you have a spirit and a body, you did not sign up for easy. You signed up for like education.
So how can we merge the ease and grace with the tough stuff?
Well, so here's the thing. Easy is different than ease.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so I can step into having things come with grace and with ease. Like I use that term a lot, actually. That's a lot of times in my intention. I want to experience this or learn this with grace and ease.
I love
That's
that.
different than easy. Easy is um um like I don't want to put the effort into it. And
Gotcha.
most things that are important, that matter, are going to require effort, but they
Yeah.
can come through ease.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, they can
Yes.
come through ease, they can come through grace, and they're going to require effort, because the things that are important in life require effort.
They really do.
They
They really
do.
do. It does. And it does. And so, I definitely believe in, manifesting and creating a life you love. However, I have learned like it's not going to be done sitting on my couch. I do
Right.
need to get up and make the effort. So I love how you kind of made that distinction between easy and ease and grace. So that was helpful.
And the other thing too, I think, is that a lot of people that are in the I'm going to manifest this, which I'm a manifester. I love
Me
manifestation. So
too.
a lot of people are like, okay, well, I'm going to manifest this, and then they think, yes, it's going to drop into my lap while I'm eating bonbons on the couch. And the reality of it is, the way it comes to you is it comes to you through inspired action.
Yes.
You take inspired action. You take action that doesn't always make sense. Maybe here,
Right.
it's intuitive, inspired action. When you take that inspired action, that's where grace and ease come. Versus intellectual force, hit it hard, hustle. Like that
Mhm.
is push action. That's not inspired action. That's not grace and ease. That's force. That's power and force. And
Mhm.
so, and sometimes that's necessary,
For
but a lot
sure.
of the time we want to get into that space of like, okay, let me follow the inspired action. And we get impatient, which is when we start getting into force.
And I still do both. I mean, if I'm
Mhm,
going to be transparent,
mhm.
there's sometimes like I'm really not inspired to do this. However, I'm like, once I start doing it, the inspiration comes.
Right. Hmm. You open
And
the door.
yeah, it opens the door. And then I kind of go into that ease and grace. So initially sometimes like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. And then the inspiration comes. So it's I can be here with you forever, Sunny.
Super fun. I love the conversation.
I love it. I love it. So there's so many nuggets of wisdom and so many, subjects we can talk about. What's one last nugget of wisdom that you'd like to leave our audience with?
That one of the things I was going to say, and then I just kept talking, so I forgot about it, but that I think is really good, especially in the climate that we're in the world right now, is similar to the observe, don't absorb. And that is respond, don't react.
Yes, that's
So many people are reactive, and what we've learned, and I think that actually science has really taught us this, and a lot of study on mental health at this point, is that reaction is almost always that little child inside of you.
oh,
When we react, it's almost always coming from the pain place, the fear place, the anger place, which is usually buried emotion from your history. When we can, instead of getting into reaction, which takes a lot of practice, but when we can let go of reaction and instead start to respond, and responding to me is, I mean, if we can imagine, it doesn't always look like this, but it's almost like you step back, right? You step back and you observe from a broader perspective. So when I'm reacting, I'm just seeing it like this, right? When I respond, I step back, I see the broader perspective, I see the bigger picture of kind of the things that are happening all around on a global scale. And then when my nervous system is calm,
mhm.
when it is in alignment, when I have my peace, then I respond.
Yes.
And there's a huge difference in the energy and the power when we're in response mode versus reaction mode, and the way that it's received.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that's love. That's love.
And it's self-love.
It is 100%.
Yeah. This is so fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't believe it's my 100th episode. There's no one
I
else.
know. Woohoo! 100. Way to keep going, girl.
From being terrified to show up to like my 100th, episode with incredible fun. It's been fun. Like this is not work. This is so fun.
But you know what? That's the thing. And I'm going to flip the table in a minute. So that's the thing that's really important for those of you that are watching and that have watched Grace's podcast through all this time is I did get to be with her when she was like trembling, shaking, and didn't do it for years and years. Yeah. And so I hope that what this does is it brings you some inspiration, and that you use the journey that Grace has been on. You see how clear and how well she's communicating and how easy it is, and she didn't need notes and all those things. And there was a day when literally she would be trembling even thinking about it, not just doing it. So whatever that place is for you in your life that you're scared of, what Grace has done is she stepped into it little by little by little, baby step by baby step. She had support, she had hands to hold, and she did it. And so whatever that thing is for you, you can do it. So use Grace as your example of how to be able to move out of whatever the fear is. Because to me, fear is the thing that tells you your next step.
Yes.
And you did it, girl. And I'm super proud of you.
You. Well, now I'm stepping into more fear, so it's.
I know you are. Hey,
and I'll share more
welcome to the party.
Yeah, I'll share more of that in 2025. Sunny, I love you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let our audience know where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me on my website, sunnydawnjohnston.com, social media, really mostly Facebook and Instagram, and I'm kind of all out there. So find me wherever you find my name. I'll be there.
If you if you're watching the replay, feel free to put your notes in, or chat with us. We'll come back to check it out. Sunny, thank you so much. Just hold on with me one moment. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, friends.
Bye.